everybody, and welcome back. This is Retirement Rescue. My name is Dee Burks. Today I'm going to be, me and Tashi, you can hear Tashi on the floor. We're going to be talking to you a little bit about setting your goals, figuring out what you want to do this next year, stepping back and reflecting. One of the things that I do every year is at the end of the year, usually right after Christmas, I will take some time and really reflect. Since I do a notebook every year, or I have notebooks every year, a lot of times I'll go back and look at last year. I'll really kind of go through it. And I'll talk to you a little bit about the kind of notebooks I keep and how I do those. But I think it's really important before you start planning for this next year that you really think about this last year. No question, this last year hasn't been great for very many people. We're all worn down. It's been year after year of drudgery. It was drudgery again somewhat this year for most people in some way. And so I understand that. But at the same time, for you to move forward and for you to make decisions about next year, you really need to think about, okay, what happened this last year? Did you accomplish things you wanted to? Did you live like you wanted to? It's not always about just accomplishing these humongous goals. It's about living the kind of life that you want. A life that is at peace. A life without excessive drama. Those are important goals, especially for those of us who are semi-retired, or maybe you're in retirement. Sometimes it's not about these humongous goals and all of that stuff. It is about, okay, am I living like I want? Have I closed my life down? Have I gotten too insular? Have I stopped going and doing? It's really easy to get in that habit, and I have absolutely got into that habit. In fact, I ran into a friend at the grocery store just yesterday, and it was like, oh my God, you're a ghost. It's like I haven't seen her in months. In fact, I got to thinking, it's been almost a year. She lives right here in town. And she was the same way. She's like, oh my gosh, we just haven't touched base and things have been so crazy. And she's had relatives pass away. And of course, my brother's had his brain cancer thing going on, and it's just been nuts. But that's one of the things you want to reflect on. Okay, am I getting overwhelmed by the drama of today and skipping over some of those things that are really important to me? Like connections with friends, connections with family. I also hosted my dad in my house a few weeks ago, and it was fabulous. He hasn't been up here in several years. He only lives a few hours away. It's not that big a deal for him to come up here. But it's just one of those things that we hadn't done. And it was great fun, and it was really tremendous. And so those are the things I reflect on. How has it gone this year? What were the unexpected things? What were those things that were really awesome? You know, it's really easy for us to focus on all of the bad that's happened, and we forget some of those good things. We forget how far we have progressed. And that's one of the things I used to do even as a young mother. I remember sitting on the back step. We really didn't have a porch. We just had this big cement step. And I would go out there on New Year's Eve. That was back when I still set resolutions, which I do not do anymore. But I would go out there on New Year's Eve and I would think, okay, where was I at this time last year? And you know, when you are a young adult, the amount of growth and change within just 1 year sometimes is tremendous. And there were several times I was really amazed at where I was and how things had changed and how my life had improved. And, you know, there were several things that really struck me as just unbelievable that happened in my life. And that happens a lot of times, but it's easy to forget those. Well, one of the things I did start doing as a young person back in the 1990s, early 1990s, was I started keeping notebooks. And a lot of this was just organizational. I'm a little scattered. I can get really disorganized, especially when I have a lot to do. And so when I started working for myself and writing, I really needed to be organized. I needed much more organization in my life. And so I started keeping notebooks. And when I say notebooks, y'all, this is what I'm talking about. Spirals, little cheapy spiral notebooks. And the ones from the 1990s are just covered with stickers. I was trying to hunt one down, but I've got them packed away right now. But I was really into stickers then, apparently, and it was more of a vision board back then when I was younger. But I use these constantly. I'll go through 6, 8, 10 a year easily. I have them everywhere. And let me tell you how I use these. Okay, y'all, I'm editing this video and I'm going to break in right here. On this video, I really talked about what I do as far as my notebooks. However, I didn't like the fact that I wasn't really showing you physically what I do with these notebooks and the why. So what I'm going to do is I pulled a couple of old notebooks from 2010 so you can see how I used to do it that I didn't find effective. And then I'm going to walk you through my January notebooks. A lot of my older notebooks had personal sensitive information. The ones I work with clients with had phone numbers and emails and all this stuff. Mine had a lot of personal financial, and I didn't want to worry about trying to blur all that information and then miss something. So I'm going to walk you through how I set everything up for January and walk you through those goals for myself. So you can see exactly what I do. I don't like just talking about it. I want to show you. So here we go. Okay, now these are a couple of notebooks that I pulled from 2010. I used to keep 2 notebooks that were thick, like 5-subject notebooks. I kept one for clients, business stuff. This was my old company. And then one for personal stuff, budget, to-do list, all of that. And this is the client one. The problem I had was I would just separate them by sticky notes because, you know, hey, sticky note queen. The problem I had was I would run out of room. And so then I had to have another notebook. And then it was like, well, do you start another 3-subject notebook? Do you start another notebook? So now for each individual book project, whether it's mine, whether it's a client, I have a separate notebook for that project. Even if you are doing something on a hobby level, let's say you're a woodworker, let's say you're a quilter, something of that nature, having a specific notebook for that type of project or projects allows you to track it really easily. It's not mixed in with other stuff. It's not mixed in with all the other things that you're looking at, and it's all in one place. I really like that when I'm doing books specifically. This notebook was where I kept my budget, my to-do list, my to-do list, all kinds of, I had lots of to-do lists, and I had the same exact problem. I would run out of space for things like a to-do list, but then still have most of my budget and everything still in this notebook. This was not effective. Was not effective to try and split them out. So here's what I do now. These are little, simple, these are less than $1 everywhere you go, whether it be Walmart, wherever. These are 1-subject notebooks, 70-sheet notebooks. This is what I start with every single year. And every color, it's color-coded. Yay! I love color coding. Every color is for a specific item. Purple is always my overall goals. And by the way, I've been doing this since about 2017, and it's proven very effective. So I've continued to use it. Purple is for my overall yearly goals. So that's this one. I rarely ever use up a 70-sheet notebook for my yearly goals. So most of the time I will just have one notebook for that year, which is great. Since I've been doing YouTube, which has been the last 3 years, I have a separate notebook for YouTube. And I usually keep both of my channels in one notebook since I recently started my second channel. But I can see me splitting them up probably by the end of this year and doing a separate notebook for each YouTube channel. Now 70 pages is not near enough because I do quite a few videos. I will usually have at least 2 notebooks, if not 3, depending on what I'm doing during the year. So I will always date them. And then when I run out of pages, I'll put an end date and start the next one. So they're always dated. I always have them in order. It doesn't matter if I run out of pages or not. There's plenty of room. Green, hello, the color of money, is always my budget and expense notebook. And I'll show you how I do this. Every month I track exactly what's going out. So I always keep track of it. Even if it's set up on automatic payments, I like to track it. I like to know what's going in, what's going out. So I track that here. If I have a big trip, like this last year I went out to Vegas to play the World Series of Poker, I always keep all those receipts and all those expenses so that I can offset any G2s I get in, any statements that I get in for winnings from the casinos. I always keep that, and I put them in an envelope, and I will paperclip them inside this notebook. When it comes tax time, everything I need is right here. I can pull my electronic statements. I can verify anything, see if there's any surprises, which I do frequently anyway. And then I have all my receipts that I might need. Anything I might input is right here. My red notebook is something I use every day. Every single day. It's going to have a list of what I have to do that day. This is a running list. Some of the things will be on there for a little while. Some of the things will be on there for a long time. But it is a running list of things that I need to keep track of, that I need to get done, that I'm currently working on, just to ensure, number one, I'm not stretched too thin, which happens a lot. And number two, that I don't miss anything, that I don't get behind on anything. That's really important for me, and it's easy to do if I'm not tracking things every day. I have a list. Here's what I need to do today. Here's what I'm going to do tomorrow. And that list, my fur children are just really trying to pick a fight with each other. Anyway, it is a running list, and so I will go through several of these notebooks. And here again, I'll date them. This is from January, and it'll go through maybe March, maybe. Usually every day is a page, so 70 days is a little over 2 months. And I don't do it every single day. My list, sometimes it'll be every other day. Kind of depends on what's going on. But most of the time, it's daily. The blue notebooks are for every single book project, specifically book project. I do other things, some marketing things and some corporate things, press releases, blog posts, blah, 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 that I get paid for, and they don't get their own notebook. I just keep track of those in my to-do list. But for book projects, each book needs its own notebook. Some books I will not go through an entire notebook for, but most books I'll go through 2, 3, sometimes even more, especially if I'm working with a client. And before you talk about, oh, you should do that online. No, I do not do this online. There is nothing I find more annoying than when you're talking to someone either via phone or via Zoom, and you can hear them typing, taking notes. That typing sound is so annoying, because you feel like that person's distracted. So I absolutely do not do that. I also don't type it in after the fact. I just don't. This is one of those things I've always done. It's proven very effective. I don't see anything that's more effective at this point because I've tried so many things. And this helps me keep track. I always have a record of everything that's discussed. I have a record of information I need. I can always look back at it, and it's always there. Zachary Blue is the next book I'm going to be working on, my own book to be traditionally published. So I have these for my own books, and then I also have them for client books. I may have 6 or 8 going at one time, depending on how busy the year is, and that's normal. But these are really important because it's really tracking my progress on my book writing. Now let's go back to the goal book. Okay, on our January 2023 goals, these are going to be goals for the year, and I'm going to walk you through what I do there and show you some of mine. But let's talk about these. Nothing I write in these notebooks is set in stone. That is not what goals are. They are not to whip yourself with, okay? They're just targets. They're just ideas. They're things I would love to have in my life, things I want to do. This last year, especially the end of the year, things have been so chaotic, and I have felt very spread very thin. Things are kind of just in chaos because trying to get the wood stove in. My kitchen's been a mess, blah, 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 blah. And so my life has felt a little bit out of balance, and it has been. So one of the things that I always try to do with my goals is, yes, I'll have business goals, I'll have book goals, but I also have how I want to live. Things that I feel like are missing in my life, things I want to add to my life or delete from my life to improve my own peace of mind. Those go on my goal list. And these goals, sometimes they'll change. I'll tweak them throughout the year, maybe add more goals, maybe take some off, maybe change them completely for whatever reason. Good example. The Zachary Blue book was the book that I was working on. I started at the end of last year and was working on it really heavily this spring. And that was going to be the book that I sent to traditional publishing. That was my plan. That book, however, was about my main character has a brain tumor. Well, as many of you know, my brother was actually diagnosed with a brain tumor in April. And at that point, I did not feel like I could continue to write that book right then. It was just too close to reality. It was just too close. So I set it aside for several months, thinking I would go back to it. And I just couldn't. The subject matter, I just need more time for that. So I'm going to put that one on the back burner. It's going to be for this year, 2023, I hope. And then I started Cathedral of the Sun in September. And then I finished that book in about 8 weeks, 6 or 8 weeks, which was really quick. The first draft, not completely finished, the first draft. And then spent the last 6 weeks or so polishing it up. And so that one's going to be the one I send out first because it's done. Hopefully I'll get back to this one. But that is how those goals change. On my goals for last year, I just deleted one and inserted another one. It's not that goal isn't going to happen. It's just that now's not the right time. So there are times things come up, or there might be something that you feel like just doesn't serve you anymore. So what? Delete it. Don't even worry about it. These goals are not to be set in stone or used to make yourself feel bad. These are things that you want to add to your life. Honestly, there have been things on my goal list for 15 years that have to do with bringing peace into my life. They're still there, more as a reminder than anything else. So let's get started on 2023 goals. I've got a quick list of 6 goals. I'm going to be adding to these, of course. And on all these pages, I will have a page for each of these goals and how I did on them and how I am doing on them. I'll revisit those every quarter. So every quarter, at least, I will come back and create another page for that goal and talk about how I did that quarter. If I completed that goal, where I'm at on that goal, how I feel about it, all that good stuff. But my goals are, number one, I already talked a little bit about this January, it's the 1st, starting today. I'm going to be doing a low spend January. And I am already did a video, in fact, on how I'm specifically going to do that low spend January. So that's only a 1-month goal. But it's an important goal for me. So I went ahead and put it on here. It's a 1-month goal. So it doesn't matter if the goal is all year or not. Even if it's just for a specific time, go ahead and use it. Number 2 is to complete the Zachary Blue book. And I want it complete. I usually try and put a date on here. I want it complete by March 1st. It's what is on my list. But always try to put a date or quantify what you're doing. If it's just a wish or a hope, that's not going to work. It needs to have a specific date and time and what you're doing. Number 3 is paint more. I did not paint near enough, especially this fall, the last 6 months or so. I haven't painted at all. And I miss that. I miss that creative aspect of my life. So I want to do 1 painting a month at least. Hopefully more, but at least once a month. And I have that on here. Number 4 is read more. I have been reading more this fall. I was doing some market research for some comp titles for my book. And I really enjoyed that. So I want to read more. I want to do 25 books a year. I read very quickly. So 25 books a year is like 1 every 2 weeks. That's very easy for me to do. It's just I have to do it. Like most things. It's not that it's hard. You just have to do it. Number 5 is grow a larger garden. And this is something I'm already in the planning stages. I've already got my seed catalogs. I'm already looking at things and trying to figure out how to improve my garden. It was a positive experience last year. It just needs to be bigger. Number 6 is eat more whole food. I really am trying to get off of processed food. This isn't about a weight management thing, although it would be awesome if that happened too. But it is about a health thing. You know, it is so easy to go and get some sort of convenience food. That's one of the reasons I'm starting in January with a low spend January. One of the things I'm cutting out is that food budget to go and get convenience food or processed food. So that is going to be on my list for the entire year, is to eat more whole foods. Now, this is just a sample of the goals I will have on my list. It's going to be pretty extensive. It usually is for me, because I put a little bit of everything on here. Personal, financial, whatever. Everything goes on here. And then I work through those goals and I see how they need to change or what happens or how good it is or whatever as I go. This is super simple. One of the reasons I like this little system is it is super simple. I think a lot of times when you buy one of those organizers, those big yearly organizers, they are so complex. And they really don't give you room to expand on the things you need to expand on. Or you have a lot of empty space on the things that don't apply to you. This way, it works. This little notebook is less than $1. It does not matter if it's perfect, if it's pretty, if you have to mark things out. It does not matter. And so that's one of the reasons I really like doing it that way. But I usually spend the first week or two in January, after I have reflected for a while and really thought about things, gone back and looked at where I've been. I really think about, okay, how do I want to live? And to me, that is a much better way of approaching making a list of what you want to do the next year than, oh, what big goals do I want to do? Yes, I have big goals. I really do. I have a lot of them. But I also want to temper that with the idea that, okay, I want to live a certain way. These goals are not going to take over my life. That has happened before. And it's stressful, and I don't want to live that way. But I want to get things done, but I also want to live a good life. There is balance there. And so I really think about that balance. Where do I want to go this year? What do I want to experience this year? What things are going to improve my life this year? What things did I not get to last year that I really miss? I didn't paint enough last year, I can tell you that right now, and I really miss it. So we're going to be doing more of that. Hello, sweet pea. Hi, Tosh, my gosh. And for those who saw me when I fostered Toshi, she has now become, obviously, a permanent member of our household. And this is one of those things that I know is going to dramatically improve my life this year. I spent all of last year with a very ill, elderly senior kitty. And while I'm grateful to have had him for that year, it was very hard. I'm thrilled to be able to give a kitty that needs a home, a good home. And there are many pets out there that need a good home. So if you're thinking about adopting or adding that to your life this year, I encourage you to go to your local humane society to find the perfect pet. And by the way, she gets along great with the dogs. Even better than Miss Carmel does, which is shocking. But Toshi just fits right in. So the perfect pet is waiting on you. Don't hesitate. But I like keeping my process simple for me. And one of the things that I really encourage people to do or not do, however you want to look at it, is don't get caught up in thinking you need to buy something. You need to do some kind of fancy schmancy journal thing and buy this big planner. I mean, how many times have you done that and not done anything with it? Really? That's one of the reasons I started using a spiral. There's something so non-intimidating about a spiral notebook that I tend to use it a lot. And it sits right on my desk. I just whip it out every day. I look at what I need to do. I go on, and 4 times a year I pull out the other one that's yearly and I look through that. I write down what I'm doing, what I'm changing. It is just so easy for me. But you need to figure out what works for you. So I hope some of these hints help you. And I will be doing my journal and everything these next 2 weeks. And but put in the comments kind of what your plans are for the year and how you're planning to improve your life. and what you're planning to do. I love to hear it. Thank you all so much for joining me, and I'll see you next time.